Good day and welcome to my poetry corner. I am Arrey Ivo, and in today's program we shall be treating my poem titled Like a Log of Wood. And the poem reads thus: Like a log of wood lying upon the sea, kicked to all directions from the anger of the rolling waves, like water forced to drip rather than run, hence marking time instead of keeping to time. So is the motherland, seen with skewed eyes and spoken of by self-proclaimed experts, like bees in the country of lizards. They say the hungry are hungry because they want to be. How can nations want to be hungry without a reason? Why do you stave off food to cry of food? Lack of reason or hint of satire. Why do you die and crave to live without a reason? Rather than see neglect as being abandoned, the paid historians write down neglect as the platitude of omission. They go down the precarious road, calling the motherland dark, while neglecting her stars and contours. They kick the log to all the directions like angry rolling waves against the bastions of truth and reason. So we shall be moving on to appreciating the poem the way I crafted it. So the title of the poem is Like a Log of Wood. And from the title, we already see a simile. That is, we are about to describe something that is like wood that has already been harvested from a tree. We see something that is not in any way moving by its own right. If it is moving, it is by the force of something else. So it may also mean that the log is lying peacefully, and we shall be coming to understand what is happening to this log of wood, or to this thing that looks like a log of wood. Like a log of wood, the first line goes, lying upon the sea, kicked to all directions from the anger of the rolling waves. We still do not know what the simile is trying to describe, but we know and have confirmed now that the log is being kicked from corner to corner upon the sea by the angry waves to all directions, and like water forced to drip rather than run, hence marking time instead of keeping to time. So we now know that if the wood or the log of wood was to be asked, it may not have loved to be just lying down, because it is now being pushed like water to drip instead of running, probably like a river or a stream. Hence it is just marking time instead of keeping to time. It is not progressing, it is just about to move. Or we might rightly say it is shaking, but we do not see an effective movement. So instead of running, it is marking time, and instead of keeping to time, it is simply not following the momentum that it ought to have been moving with. So is the motherland, the next line goes, seen with skewed eyes and spoken of by self-proclaimed experts like bees in the country of lizards. So it's now talking about a place. It says the place is a motherland, and it is this log of wood, and it is seen with skewed eyes, with bias, influenced by other realities rather than realities of the place. and is spoken of by self-proclaimed experts like bees in the country of lizards. It's an irony to think that bees should be the people or the experts to be talking about issues about what lizards want, instead of lizards themselves who are going through the processes and the problems or the issues. But these self-proclaimed experts are talking about the motherland, are talking about the lock being tossed about to all directions by the angry waves without giving the lock the chance to speak for itself. They say the hungry are hungry because they want to be. How can a nation want to be hungry without a reason? So the poetry now goes into some kind of rhetorical questions. If people need food, and it's a human condition to want to eat when you're hungry, how can people want to stay hungry if there is no reason why they are hungry? Is it because of famine? Is it because of political divides? Is it because of climate change? Is it because of war? But is it because of the people, governances, or is it because of foreign influence? All these things have an impact in the understanding why people get hungry. But in this poetry, the poet simply has not delved into the nitty-gritty of all these conditions across the world. He's simply asking rhetorical questions for people to answer. That is it normal for someone to decide to be hungry when he needs food? Why do you stave off food to cry of food? Will it be normal for you to deny food to cry food without a condition, without being forced, or without trying to notify in terms of those who are into the condition of hunger strikes and so on? Could they be doing their things without a reason? Could the reason be what is different from other people or the proclaimed experts or the commentators who are reporting the situations on the ground? Lack of reason or a tint of satire. Why do we die and crave to live? So now we see that there is an oxymoron that is running across the whole poetry, and is reiterating the fact that the log of wood might simply not want to be tossed about by its own will. Why would it like to be tossed about, whereas it loves to have its own momentum, whereas it loves to run instead of just marking time? Maybe it would love to keep to time rather than just dripping like water. It would like to run like a river, or to even be rolling like the waves that are kicking it about. So why do you die and crave to live without a reason? It's also an alliteration of the thematic area covered by the poetry from the beginning. So rather than seeing neglect as being abandoned, the paid historians write down neglect as a platitude of omission. So instead of writing the factual situation on the ground, the reasons and the causes behind certain things, war, poverty, migration, climate change, and so on, the historians who are paid to document these realities are writing down some frail and feeble literature of the situation, and they are reporting neglect and the failure to act as omission, which is a more milder form of the situation. They go down the dangerous road, which is described in the poem as precarious, of calling the motherland dark. We now see a kind of historical linkage to the poetry with the history of Africa. Africa was called the Dark Continent for a long period of time, and we now know that the log of wood, which is being tossed about by the angry rolling waves from direction to direction without its will, is the motherland, and it is Africa. They call the motherland dark while neglecting has stars and contours. They fail to see the forces in Africa that are good, the talents and the skills in Africa, and the possibilities of empowering these aspects of Africa by focusing on the resources of her people for her people. The leaders, the historians, and all those who are responsible for governances across Africa, they fail to see the stars in Africa. They fail to see the contours, the symmetry of Africa, its complexities, its intricate nature, its powerful aspects beyond probably the just easy natural resources that are easily reported about. The kick, the lock, the poetry returns to its original trust. They kick the lock to all the directions, like angry rolling waves against the bastions of truth and reason. So, all these things that they do end up being like you are working against the forces of truth and reason, and they are bastions, which means like dikes prevent cities from being flooded by these angry waves and so on. The log of wood, which is Africa, is endowed with reason and truth, which act as bastions against the kicks, the tossing it is having from the angry rolling waves, pushing it from place to place. So in a way, the poem is a very figurative descriptive of some of the processes and problems faced by Africa that are misrepresented and also represented wrongfully by actors that are supposedly to be acting for the benefit of Africa. Thank you very much for tuning in on to my poetry corner. It has been Arrey Ivo.